An aging patient presents with debilitating, radiating leg pain and chronic lower backache. The underlying pathology is Degenerative Lumbar Spondylolisthesis, or DLS. As the intervertebral discs and facet joints degrade, one vertebra slides forward. This mechanical shift directly impinges on the nerve root. The standard surgical solution is Lumbar Interbody Fusion. The procedure decompresses the spine to free the nerve and mechanically locks the joint into a stable position. This preoperative lateral X-ray shows the baseline condition before intervention. You can clearly see the forward slippage of the vertebra out of its normal alignment. Now look at the postoperative view of that exact same joint. The spine is secured using bright white mechanical hardware, specifically bilateral pedicle screws and an interbody cage inserted into the disc space. Decompression and hardware fusion successfully fix the localized instability on the operating table. However, achieving perfect mechanical fusion on an X-ray does not guarantee clinical relief for the patient. Two patients can undergo identical, technically sound surgeries, yet their long-term recovery trajectories split into two completely different cohorts. One group experiences a favorable recovery. By 6 months, these patients return to functional, pain-free lives. This bar chart plots the visual analog scale, measuring patient pain. If you look at the 6-month post-op cluster, the favorable group's pain score drops to 2.5, while the unfavorable group remains stuck at 5.0. This second chart, tracking the Oswestry Disability Index, shows how that pain translates directly into physical limitation. By 6 months post-op, the unfavorable group languishes at a disability score of 15, nearly double the favorable group score of 8. For the unfavorable cohort, these numbers equate to chronic persistent pain, severely limited mobility, and a high likelihood of requiring a second operation. The difference between these divergent outcomes is not decided by the surgeon's hands during the operation. The outcome is encoded in 3 pre-operative anatomical parameters unique to each patient. To find what set the unfavorable group up to fail, we have to work backward and investigate their pre-operative anatomy. The first hidden predictive variable is the pre-operative facet angle. Facet joints operate as the rear hinges of the spine. They dictate exactly how the lower back bends and how it carries vertical weight. Notice how a steepened facet angle alters force distribution. Instead of dispersing weight, it concentrates downward vectors, increasing axial load. When fusion rods are attached, the new hardware must immediately fight against this excessive, unbalanced vertical compression. The clinical data confirms this structural strain. High preoperative facet angles strictly correlate with prolonged recovery times, returning a statistically significant p-value of 0.039. A steep facet angle builds a permanent biomechanical disadvantage into the patient's spine. It acts as an invisible geometric headwind that standard hardware struggles to overcome during rehabilitation. We find the second structural predictor by shifting our focus from vertical load to horizontal instability. This introduces the concept of lateral listhesis. Standard spondylolisthesis involves a straightforward forward slip. Lateral listhesis is a multi-directional failure. The vertebra slides forward, then suddenly shears laterally to one side, breaking the alignment entirely. Clinically, this lateral displacement proves that the spine's stabilizing ligaments and joints are experiencing advanced multiplane degeneration.
Because the joint is failing across multiple axes, this specific instability strongly predicts worse long-term functional recovery, with a p-value of 0.021. In these cases, the vertebral segment collapses in 3-dimensional space, rendering standard linear surgical stabilization insufficient. The final and most crucial preoperative predictor is disc height. A healthy intervertebral disc functions as both a shock absorber and a structural spacer. It maintains the physical distance required to keep the surrounding bone from crushing the spinal nerves. Reduced preoperative disc height strictly correlates with severe postoperative clinical failure, carrying a key-value of 0.032. As the disc space collapses, the neural foramen, the exit hole for the nerve root, shrinks along with it. This loss of height mechanically pinches the nerve. The loss of space increases friction and focuses compressive forces onto the surrounding bone. Patients in the favorable cohort generally start with better native disc height. As a result, they accumulate significantly less chronic nerve damage before surgery begins.
Facet angle and lateral listhesis dictate the structural difficulty of the surgery, but a collapsed disc height is the immediate active source of neural compression that the surgeon must physically reverse on the table. Identifying these immutable anatomical constraints allows the surgical team to formulate a specific intervention strategy. A surgeon cannot change a patient's pre-existing facet angle, and they cannot erase baseline lateral listhesis, but disc height is uniquely modifiable in the operating room. This postoperative image shows the specific piece of hardware responsible for this modification, the interbody cage. It sits implanted directly into the disc space between the screws. Surgeons utilize a mechanical technique called distraction. They use the cage as a physical lever to jack open the collapsed disc space. Distraction provides an immediate dual benefit. It instantly unpinches the trapped nerve roots and restores proper tension to the surrounding spinal ligaments. This is the most critical statistical finding of the study. Sustained postoperative disc height carries a p-value of 0.012, making it the ultimate deciding factor for long-term clinical success at 6 months. Aggressive restoration and maintenance of the disc height gives the surgeon the primary mechanical lever needed to physically shift a patient out of the unfavorable recovery trajectory. However, that carefully engineered disc distraction is threatened by a critical external variable: patient bone quality. This chart shows the prevalence of osteoporosis within the specific demographic studied. 63.5% of the patients, 33 out of 52, tested positive for poor bone density. If the surrounding bone is osteoporotic, the rigid interbody cage can sink into the soft vertebrae over time. This undoes the distraction and collapses the disc height all over again. Surgeons must scrutinize the facet angle and lateral listhesis early. Identifying these high-risk parameters is essential to manage patient expectations and plan the operation. During the procedure, the mandate is clear: aggressively restore the disc height while utilizing appropriate grafts and hardware to compensate for poor bone density. True success in DLS surgery requires looking past localized hardware placement to address the underlying structural parameters that drive long-term failure.